In the modern-day contemporary art stage, there is a sprouting of many new artists with their creative artworks attempting to set solid footing and gain recognition. One of the many artists who have become a recognizable figure in the art scene is Wang Guangyi. His avant-garde artworks and extraordinary commercial success led him to be renowned globally as an important contributor to the contemporary art scene. Wang's works amalgamates opposing ideological beliefs, juxtaposing revolutionary images with consumer logos. Antithetical elements, such as consumerism with capitalism and Christ with Mao, makes his works unique. However, in contrast with the rockstar status he's achieved currently, Wang had humble origins. He was born into a family living in extreme poverty in the turbulent totalitarian society in 1957. Although times were tough, it never stopped Wang's artistic creativity from sprouting. During his childhood, his parents played a key role in setting his path into liking exotic things and sparked his curiosity. His father was a railroad worker, which enabled Wang to travel to distant places. The landscape he saw through the train windows inspired him. At home, his mother decorated the window panes with flowers. As sunlight shone through the windows, the rays filtered through the kaleidoscopic designs, casting images on the interior of his house, shaping the way he viewed prosaic surroundings. This inspired his first creation of ink drawings on glass when he was about 10 years old. Growing up during the Cultural Revolution in China was also one of the determinants that set his direction for the creation of his artworks. When Wang was in elementary school, he was heavily influenced by the many posters of Mao Zedong, without fully understanding the situation at that time. As time passed and he finally comprehended what happened around him, he too became a zealous believer in the myth of his generation. It was then Mao became his idol, and this was portrayed in his many artworks. In the early 1970s, Wang's works were mainly propaganda posters, which included political slogans on revolutionary realist depictions of soldiers, workers, and farmers. Between 1977 and 1980, he was rejected 3 times to become a part of the reopened Art Academy post-Cultural Revolution. However, he continued to work hard, and finally in 1980, he received an offer from Zhejiang Academy of Fine Arts. At the academy, he was taught to paint in the Soviet-style realism, which differed from his passion for classical European art. Upon graduation, he started teaching, but felt that it was not his calling due to the intensely conservative educational system. In 1984, Wang moved back to Harbin, where he established the Northern Art Group with Xu Chun, Ren Tian, and Lu Yan. The bulk of Wang's famous works were created from 1985 onwards. 1985 was the year Wang created the masterpiece Frozen Northern Wasteland. Following that, from 1986 to 1988, he created the post-classical series. In 1990, he created his third main collection, Great Criticism. The reason behind the creation of these works was due to his belief that art must be passionate towards reality, and that only this enthusiasm can develop academic issues in terms of society, history, and reality. Small unofficial groups like the Northern Art Group were popular during the 80s, labeled by art critics and historians as the 1985 New Wave movement. It was a time where there are a new influx of information from the West. These artists were influenced by Western philosophers such as Friedrich Nietzsche, Jean-Paul Sartre, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, and T.S. Eliot. Identified as modern, those artists not only tried to introduce and uphold humanism, but also to become cultural critics. In Wang's Northern Art Group, the location played an important role in the direction of their art style. He said, "The weather is cold up north. It is more mysterious, and this affected our theory and work. The theory was rational, and we used cool tones and colors." This is a shift from his initial influences during the Cultural Revolution. In an interview with Hu Li-chan, Wang spoke about the metaphysical stance he established as an artist, saying, "In 1985 to 1986, I thought art possessed a social imperative, that it might lead man to restore his sullied faith, allowing him to leave behind the sick morass of modern culture, with resolute belief in sublime reason and the greatness of his spirit. Our purpose is to help humanity transcend the mire of morose culture, and to uplift the inspiration and health of the cultural spirit." In the next year, Wang Guangyi created his next series, something he considers as his second stage, the post-classical series. Religion, the central theme of the series, was not depicted in any way in his previous works. He researched on classical European art, the style he initially wanted to learn in 1980, and revising the canon content. He explained in an interview, "I came to realize that the essence of art is in its ancestry, its history. I thought art's foundation and creation were intrinsically woven, that art does not come from some blank slate. From start to finish, when creating a work of art, one's head is full of these historical considerations, an encounter with what has been, and its entry into a process of rectification." Great Criticism is Wang Guangyi's most famous cycle of works at a later time from 1990 to 2007. These works use propaganda images from the Cultural Revolution and contemporary logos from Western advertisements. During the mid-1990s, as China's rapidly changing economic system transformed to accommodate the demands of the global marketplace, a rush of luxury goods became available to the newly wealthy developers and entrepreneurs. As such, artists like Wang Guangyi used the Great Criticism as a response to this influx of new visual regime, those advertising images promoting newly available, highly priced commodities. He juxtaposes red and yellow Mao-era posters with branded symbols, invented serial numbers, and Wang's own captions, "No." He is also the first Chinese artist to co-opt Mao Zedong's iconography in his practice. In this propaganda image, three heroes of the revolution seem to be manning the front lines of ideology, as Chairman Mao floats above them like a benevolent and watchful god. From left to right, the costumes of these three identify them as an industrial laborer, a soldier in the People's Liberation Army, and the farmer's example of red people. The caption below captures the ferocity of their revolutionary zeal. People around the world unite, abolish American imperialism, abolish Soviet reactionaries, abolish counter-revolutionaries throughout the country. The intense animosity of this trio is harnessed and redeployed by Wang Guangyi in The Great Criticism, in which the same three figures look out defiantly towards the future of free enterprise and utter a resounding no. As we can observe from the work, he combines these two styles, the formulaic realism of the posters of the Cultural Revolution with the flat, colorful style of American pop art, to create the tension between the two worlds that were colliding during the 80s and 90s. Furthermore, cultural subjectivity of color theory also plays a crucial role in his works, in contrasting Western and Eastern views of red, and its symbolic implications as we could see from his artwork. Symbolic icons used in pop art have integrated into Asian culture through the globalization process and media expansion. Wang's paintings forced China and the rest of the world to look closely at China, its history, and what that history means in the 20th and 21st century. Images from the Cultural Revolution were widespread and influenced so many people in their time, whether for good or bad. And now, with the Western world knocking on China's door, images from advertisements are taking over the role of promotion. Only this time, it's goods that are being pushed on people, providing them with a new lifestyle that they are supposed to buy into. Wang takes these conflicting ideas and combines them in a way that makes the viewer stop and think about the way our views are influenced by visual imagery around us. Currently, Wang still holds solo exhibitions, and from 2008 to 2012, his art parodies the Cold War influence on international and local politics. A 2012 exhibit entitled Thing in Itself, Utopia, Pop, and Personal Technology featured Wang's artworks. It is a retrospective exhibition curated by Huang Chuang, who sought to create an exhibition that approaches the work in the theme of Thing in Itself and engage with the dialectic properties, political and mythological contents of Wang's art. The exhibit aims to engage in in-depth academic research of the political dialectic properties of rationality and faith, secular and transcendental, political and mythological contents of Wang Guangyi's art. It plans to use a research-oriented presentation of a typical case study in Chinese contemporary art history to apply combined art history and intellectual history methods to holistically clarify the internal logic, image methods, and situational influences taking place within this period of history. Some critiques involve Wang's turning away from political art, which is what he's known for. Instead, in Thing in Itself, the curator focuses on theology and his lesser-known art, which is a far cry from his comfort zone. This, however, allows more room for discussion by art critics and enthusiasts about his artwork. This installation is a huge deviation from the political propaganda posters that Wang is known for. Instead, this haunting installation made up of jute bags filled with rice grains, towers over the audience who walks through it, causing one to get the sense of accidentally walking into a grain warehouse, and at the same time, walking through a solemn setting. It has been inspired by the space where this installation is exhibited at, and his past experience working in the countryside. It also reflects Wang's tendency to stay simple and his attitude towards art as it isn't fancy and elaborate. The Cold War Aesthetics installation was held in Shanghai, China in 2012. It was initially exhibited in 2008 as a part of a large retrospective exhibition, Visual Politics. It captures and shows the psychological effects of propaganda during the Cold War, and to warn people of future threats, especially a potential Cold War between two superpowers. This message is even more poignant, for there has been growing tensions between West and China, and the West and Russia. Thus, this exhibition serves as a beacon in encouraging patience and reminding the suspicion entrenched in the world's psyche as a result of Cold War propaganda.